It began with a single, distant sound, a low drone, almost indistinguishable from the wind. Then came another, and another, until the night sky above London was alive with the thunder of engines. The date was September 7th, 1940, the night the Blitz began. For 8 long months, the British capital would burn under the weight of Hitler's wrath. This was no longer a war of soldiers and front lines. It was a war of endurance, of willpower, of spirit. And at its heart was one man, Winston Churchill, who refused to bow, even as the walls of his city shook around him. By early September, Hitler's patience had worn thin. The Battle of Britain, the great aerial struggle for control of the skies, was not going according to plan. Despite heavy losses, the Royal Air Force had refused to break. German pilots expected British defenses to crumble in weeks. Instead, they met fierce, coordinated resistance. Frustrated, Hitler shifted strategy. If Britain would not surrender through military defeat, he would bomb her into submission. Factories, docks, railways, all would become targets. But so too would homes, schools, and churches. At 4:43 p.m. on September 7th, 348 German bombers, escorted by 617 fighters, crossed the English Channel. Their target? London's East End, the docks at Rotherhithe, Woolwich, and the Isle of Dogs. Eyewitnesses recalled the moment vividly. The sky, they said, seemed to open up. A river of fire fell from above. Within minutes, warehouses along the Thames exploded in flames. The gasworks ignited, sending black smoke towering into the sky. Thousands fled, clutching children and whatever belongings they could carry. Fire engines raced through debris-strewn streets. The docks, lifelines of British commerce, became infernos. That night, the city did not sleep. And neither did Winston Churchill. At midnight, Churchill stood in the operations room beneath the Admiralty, staring at the giant wall maps dotted with red markers, each one representing a bomb strike. The air smelled of ink, cigarettes, and fear. Admiral Pound briefed him on the damage. Dozens of fires still raged. Thousands were displaced. Casualties? Unknown. Churchill listened silently, jaw set. Then he did something few leaders would have dared. He went into the fire. Against all advice, he ordered his car to take him to the East End. The roads were choked with rubble, but he insisted on going further, closer, until the smell of burning wood and cordite filled the car. Civilians recognized him at once, a stout figure in a dark overcoat, cigar in hand, eyes fixed on the destruction. When he saw the ruins of the docks, witnesses say he wept openly. A woman covered in soot shouted from a broken doorway, "You see, Winnie? We can take it. Give it 'em back!" Churchill looked at her and replied softly, "You are indeed unconquerable." Later, he would recall that moment as one of the most profound of his life. "London can take it," he told his cabinet the next morning, "and so can the rest of Britain." As the bombs kept falling, the British government transformed its capital into a fortress. The London Underground, once a symbol of modern progress, became a vast network of shelters. Tens of thousands of civilians descended nightly into its tunnels. The air was damp, the smell of coal and humanity thick. Trains stopped running, Platforms became dormitories, and posters urged Londoners, "Keep calm and carry on." Children slept side by side with strangers. Priests held mass underground. Nurses treated the wounded between train rails. According to historian Juliet Gardner, nearly 150,000 people took refuge in the tube every night during the height of the Blitz. The government at first resisted, fearing panic and disease, but Churchill eventually relented. "Let them sleep where they are safest," he said. Above ground, the city was an inferno. Bombs fell indiscriminately, incendiaries that could ignite entire streets, high explosives that could demolish entire blocks. Yet every morning, Londoners emerged from the rubble, brushed off the dust, and went to work. Milkmen made their deliveries through bombed-out streets. Bus drivers rerouted around craters. Children resumed school in basements and church halls. Even as the bombs fell, life went on, defiantly. Churchill knew that words were his most powerful weapon. When guns could not reach the enemy, his speeches did. His radio addresses became the heartbeat of the nation, deep, gravelly, deliberate. He didn't speak like a politician. He spoke like a soldier, addressing comrades in the trenches. "We will not flag or fail," he told the nation. "We shall go on to the end. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be." It wasn't bravado. It was a commandment, a covenant with the British people. Even Hitler's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, grudgingly admitted that Churchill's oratory had the effect of 1,000 guns. Behind the scenes, though, Churchill was exhausted. He barely slept, surviving on brandy, cigars, and adrenaline. His aides recalled him pacing his underground bunker, known as the Cabinet War Rooms, deep beneath the Treasury building. Maps covered the walls, phones rang at all hours. The air was hot, the ventilation poor. Yet Churchill insisted on being there during every major raid. When the sound of bombs grew closer, staff urged him to move deeper underground. He refused. "I shall not hide from danger," he told them. "If the Germans want me, they'll have to come and get me." By late autumn, the Blitz had become a routine, a terrible nightly ritual. But on the night of December 29th, 1940, it reached a new level of destruction. German bombers unleashed one of the heaviest attacks of the entire war. Over 24,000 high-explosive and incendiary bombs rained down on London in just a few hours. The main target? The City of London, Britain's financial heart. Flames engulfed entire streets. The Guildhall burned. The Bank of England was hit. The ancient St. Paul's Cathedral stood surrounded by fire. At dawn, photographers captured an image that would become legendary. St. Paul's, rising above the smoke, its dome unscathed, illuminated by the glow of the burning city. It was more than a building. It was a symbol. London still stood. Britain still stood. Churchill later said that when he saw that photograph, he felt as if the light of civilization had not yet gone out. While London endured, the RAF continued to strike back. Though outnumbered, Britain's fighter pilots, the few, as Churchill called them, fought with unmatched tenacity. The Germans, led by Luftwaffe Chief Hermann Göring, had underestimated them. British radar stations, the first of their kind, gave early warnings of incoming raids. Ground controllers coordinated squadrons with precision. And in the skies, Spitfires and Hurricanes dueled Messerschmitts in a deadly ballet. Pilot Geoffrey Wellham, only 18 years old, later wrote of those days, "You see a Messerschmitt diving toward you, guns blazing. You don't think. You react. You fight for your life, for your home, for everyone down there. By October 1940, the tide began to turn. The Luftwaffe, suffering heavy losses, shifted its focus from airfields to civilian targets. A strategic mistake. The RAF recovered, regrouped, and grew stronger. Hitler's invasion plans, Operation Sea Lion, were quietly shelved. The Germans would never set foot on British soil. Churchill had been right. Britain could fight on. And now, she had survived the worst. As 1941 dawned, Churchill faced a grim reality. The Blitz continued, but the larger war still loomed. Europe was enslaved. The United States remained neutral. The Soviet Union, for now, was allied with Hitler. Britain was isolated, besieged, bleeding. And yet, it endured. In January, Churchill delivered a message to his people that captured the defiant soul of his leadership. We do not pretend that we are masters of victory. We claim only that we are masters of ourselves, that we can look disaster in the eye and continue to resist. Privately, he worried about how long Britain could stand alone. He sent coded appeals to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, pleading for supplies and support. Out of these letters grew one of the most vital alliances in history, the beginnings of the Lend-Lease Act. America would not yet enter the war, but it would arm the defenders of democracy. As the winter of 1941 dragged on, Londoners grew weary, but not broken. The fires still burned, but so did the spirit that had defined them since that first terrible night. Historians often ask, what kept Britain from surrendering? It wasn't military might. It wasn't luck. It was belief in freedom, in duty, in something larger than survival. Ordinary people became extraordinary. Nurses, firefighters, air raid wardens, men and women who faced death nightly. One London firefighter wrote in his diary, "We have no right to despair while others endure worse. The city still breathes. Therefore, we must keep fighting." Churchill understood that spirit deeply. He knew that leadership was not about commands, but about conviction. His defiance was contagious. His words, like artillery shells, exploded across the airwaves, shattering doubt, inspiring unity. When the smoke cleared and dawn returned to London, Churchill's refusal to surrender had become something more than a policy. It was a legend. The night he chose defiance over despair, Britain found its soul. And from that moment on, no threat, not bomb, nor army, nor dictator, could ever extinguish it. But as the flames of London faded, a new fire was about to ignite. Across the Atlantic, in a land still untouched by war. Soon, the world would change forever.